Now, Ask Dr. Love with psychotherapist, author, love and relationship expert Jamie Turndorf, Ph.D. For expert advice on love and relationships, call into the show at 888-463-6748. That's 888-GO-FOR-IT. Or you can submit your question online at AskDrLove.com. Now, here's Dr. Love.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Ask Dr. Love. I'm Dr. Jamie Turndorf, and it's my pleasure to be with you again today. Our show is The Anatomy of Infidelity. Cheating, two-timing, the wandering eye, an extramarital affair, infidelity, deceiving, betrayal, being unfaithful. These are all different names to describe the same thing. Today I'm going to bear the anatomy of infidelity, and we're going to start the show with a quiz to test your knowledge on the topic, and then we're going to talk about what causes affairs, the truths and myths about affairs, and also what you can do to head off an affair before an attraction has the chance to swell your head and other body parts. And I'm going to answer some questions that I selected that came into the site. The first one's called Lost, and here I'm helping out a woman who says that she and her boyfriend take turns cheating on each other and physically pounding each other too. And she says that they're both depressed but attached to the point that they can't let each other go. So stay tuned to find out how they can free themselves from this emotional prison without breaking up. And in Trust Issues with My Boyfriend, I help a woman whose boyfriend gave her the password of his Facebook account, and then she discovered an angry note that his ex posted months before, but during the time that she and her boyfriend were already together. And even though he didn't respond, she's worried that he's cheating on her. So stick around to find out how she can handle this touchy situation without driving him away. And third question of the week, why my ex is constantly lying to me. And here I'm working with a woman whose ex is seeing another woman and lying to her about it. And she wants to know why he's lying. So stick around to find out what his lying actually says about how he feels about her. And here's a hint. It's a sign that they have a good chance at making up. And then, reading between the sheets, he won't give you oral sex is the name of this question. And I'm helping a woman who's afraid that her boyfriend's refusal to chow down is going to cause her to get down with another guy. So stick around to find out how she can keep a cool head over his not giving her head and head off an infidelity too. That's a lot of heads. Now, let's move on ahead to today's show, The Anatomy of Infidelity. So before we talk about what causes an affair and what you can do to prevent it, let's start with this little quiz I promised. If you have a piece of paper or a pencil near you, grab it. If you're driving, don't. So here's the first question. Most men who cheat are unhappy in their marriage. Is that true or false? Now, if you said false, you're correct, because 56% of men who had affairs were happy in their marriage, according to a study by Helen Fisher, Ph.D., a biological anthropologist at Rutgers University, the author of Why Him, Why Her, and Why We Love. And by comparison, only 34% of women who had affairs were happy or very happy in their marriage. So men are more likely to give sexual motivations for infidelity and less likely to fall in love with an extramarital partner, whereas women are more interested in jumping ship than men are. And for men, this is a secondary strategy as opposed to an alternate strategy. Now here's the second question. Women are more likely than men to give which of the following reasons for infidelity? Reason 1, revenge. Reason 2, sexual novelty. 3, sexual frequency. 4, loneliness. If you said loneliness, you're right, because research says that most often men and women have different reasons for being unfaithful. Men search for more sex or attention, and women look to fill an emotional void. And women tend to have an emotional connection with their lover and are more likely to have an affair because of loneliness. All right, here's your next question. Infidelity is the leading cause of divorce, true or false? If you said false, you're right. Although infidelity is the main reason unmarried couples who are living together split up, the same is not true of married couples. Turns out married couples often cite being incompatible or unable to communicate as the cause of their divorce. Now here's your next question. What percentage of husbands say they've had sex outside their marriage? 15%, 25%, 36%, or 52%? And if you said 25%, you're right. Statistics from the American Association for Marriage and Family Therapy show that 25% of husbands report having had sex outside of their marriage. And when emotional affairs or sexual intimacy without intercourse, such as kissing, are included, then the number jumps up to 45%. Now here's your next question. What percentage of wives say they've had sex outside their marriage? 15%, 25%, 36%, or 52%? Well, the right answer is 15%. Statistics from the same organization, the American Association for Marriage and Family Therapy, say only 15% of wives report having had sex outside their marriage. And like men, the number does go up when you include emotional affairs or things like smooching. Then 35% of wives admit to that. Now, here's your next one. If you think your partner is cheating, you should discuss it with your partner even if you don't have concrete evidence. True or false? Now, if you said true, you're right, because research says it's important to address concerns about infidelity early, even if you don't have clear proof that your partner is having an affair. Whether or not it happened, the couple has to work on their trust and communication so that they can move forward in their relationship, because if you're already suspicious, something's wrong. And what about spying on your partner? Well, don't do it, because you may be able to prove there was an affair, but you'll never prove there wasn't. And you'll destroy the trust and the communication you need to have a good relationship. And that could be more damaging to a marriage than the sexual infidelity in and of itself. Well, now here's the next question. Highly educated people are more likely to have affairs. True or false? Well, guess what? It's false. A National Marriage Project study found that highly educated people are less likely to be unfaithful than their less educated peers. In one study, 13% of the people with a college education said they had sex outside their marriage, compared to 19% of those who were moderately educated and 21% of those with the least education being high school dropouts. Now here's your next one. A woman is least likely to be unfaithful if her income is equal to her husband's, greater than her husband's, slightly less than her husband's, much less than her husband's. Well, the correct answer is much less than her husband's. A Cornell University study on income and infidelity found that women are least likely to stray when they depend on their husband's income. And they may have fewer opportunities to cheat and may decide it isn't worth it because their livelihood may be at risk. That makes sense, doesn't it? Now, here's the next one. A man is more likely to cheat if his wife is the main breadwinner. True or false? Well, here, a very surprising result. True. That same Cornell University study found that men who were completely dependent on their wives' income were 5 times more likely to cheat than men who contributed equally. But here's where statistics can really be misleading, because when you add in other variables like age, educational level, income, religious attendance, and relationship satisfaction, when you put that into the mix, there wasn't any difference between men who depended on their wife's income and those who didn't. Now here's your next question. A man is more likely to cheat if he is the main breadwinner. True or false? Right answer is true. Ironically, the same Cornell University study found that men who bring home most of the bacon are also more likely to cheat. So men were least likely to cheat when their partners made about 75% of their incomes. Makes you think that there's something about feeling powerful and needed that makes a man not want to cheat. We'd have to study that one. Here's your next one. It could be a sign that your partner is cheating or thinking about it if your partner changes how he or she looks, gives you gifts, constantly criticizes you, or does all of the above. If you said does all the above, you're right, because research says partners who cheat often begin paying more attention to their appearance, criticizing their spouses, and or giving unsolicited gifts. And when one partner is constantly critical, he or she may be setting up the other partner to be the one at fault, and a partner who gives gifts may be feeling guilty. All right, now where can you go to jail for cheating? South Carolina, Minnesota, Michigan, or all of the above? Well, all of the above. But it turns out laws against adultery remain on the books in many states, but they're rarely enforced. Otherwise, half the population would be in jail. Now, here's another one. Genetic testing could determine how likely your partner is to cheat. True or false? True. It's not proof, and genetics aren't destiny, but there's some evidence that genes are linked to sensation-seeking behaviors like drinking alcohol or gambling may also be associated with sexual promiscuity and infidelity. And one study focused on the gene D4. And this is associated with reward and feeling good. And people with a variation of that gene were actually more likely to commit infidelity or be promiscuous. And 50% of the people with the variation reported being unfaithful, compared with only 22% of the people who didn't have the variation. And here's another one. What's the best way to heal a relationship after infidelity? According to research and experts. 1, temporary separation. 2, individual psychotherapy. 3, joint couples therapy. Or 4, anger management. Well, the right answer is joint couples therapy. And the first priority of couples coping with infidelity should be building their trust again. And that happens best if they seek help together. And while seeking an individual therapist also may help, it could build a wall of secrecy and privacy between the couple and lead to further alienation. So, here's another one for you. Who should set the timetable for a relationship's recovery after an infidelity? The couple's therapist, the partner who cheated, the partner who was betrayed, or both partners together? And believe it or not, the research says the partner who was betrayed is the one who should set the timetable. Okay? Now, the betrayed person should set the timetable for recovery, and while the person who cheated may be eager to put the past behind the couple, that cheater needs to honor the other person's timetable. All right, so how well did you score? Interesting, isn't it? Now, I wanted to also give you a few little quickies on this one. Not quickies, tweets. See, Dr. Love, where's your head? Here's a couple tweets. People often cheat because forbidden love is sweet. And refusing to screw your significant other is a good way to throw him or her into the arms of another. And partners often say, screw you, by finding someone else to screw. And when a man is starved of appreciation, he may fall into extramarital fornication. And when a woman is starved of emotional company, she may go looking for another Humpty Dumpty. I think those were a little bit racy. I think you'll agree. So, I'm going to take a little break, and when I come back in a moment, I'm going to get to my quickie. See you in a moment on Ask Dr. Love Radio.
You're listening to Ask Dr. Love with Dr. Jamie Turndorf. To speak to Dr. Turndorf live on the air, call 888-463-6748. AskDrLove.com is the web's premier relationship advice site since 1996. Visit AskDrLove.com to search thousands of free relationship advice articles on any relationship issue you may have. Or you can submit a question to her free advice column. However, if you're listening live, why not call in? Don't be shy. Dr. Turndorf wants to help you, and this is a unique chance to get a personal answer from one of today's most respected experts. So, if you have a question for her, please call in now at 888-463-6748. That's 888-463-6748. Now back to Ask Dr. Love with Jamie Turndorf, Ph.D. Once again, here's Dr. Love.
Hello again, and welcome back to Ask Dr. Love Radio. I'm Dr. Jamie Turndorf, and today I'm talking about the anatomy of infidelity. And now is the time in the show for my quickie, the short segment. And I'm going to talk about the bare facts of affairs, 10 little known facts. The first one I wanted to tell you about is the statistics on the frequency of affairs. They don't add up. You know, in the little quiz I gave you before, I told you some of the statistics, but it turns out people lie even in anonymous polls. And also general polls are often not reliable because when they poll an 18-year-old who says he's never had an affair, well, that's not saying much. But the percentage of those who say they have had affairs ranges from 25 to 75% of all males and 15 to 60% of all women. So you see, what do you do with these very, very conflicting numbers? Well, psychologist Leighton Thole, who specializes in internet research and who's interviewed 3,600 people who have had affairs, says the current acceptable statistic is roughly half of all men and women, including the persons victimized by the deception. That is, half of all men and women get involved in extramarital affairs. And Abram Spring, who has worked with couples for more than 25 years, says affairs affect every 1 in 2.7 couples. So that's just about 50%. Now here's the second quickie fact. Someone, somewhere in an extramarital affair always loses. The third little quickie. Affairs often feel like love because you get very close emotionally and physically very quickly, but it's often a fake closeness. So don't confuse love and lust. Now here's a fourth little bear fact. Often relationships, affairs, are stormy. And here's the fifth. One partner in an affair is often the one who makes a banquet out of crumbs. That's usually the case when that person is single and available and the other partner is married or elsewhere, otherwise engaged or occupied. Now, here's another interesting little fact. The forbidden fruit is sweeter. So, why do people risk everything for that stolen kiss, the sweaty palms, the rapid heart rate? Why do writers dramatize the suffering in popular mythology? Remember the movie Bridges of Madison County or The English Patient, Gone with the Wind, or even Shakespeare in Love? Well, it turns out that an affair can be a drug. It's a fix because you can't wait until the next time. It's addicting. You feel you can't live without it. And there is an allure of secret relationships. They actually create greater arousal, passion, and obsession than with non-secret relationships. And these experiences, the secret, clandestine relationship, actually causes changes in your body on a physiological level. Because when you're in the throes of this kind of an affair, you experience a high from the natural amphetamine-like chemicals like dopamine and norepinephrine. But then in the next stage of the love affair, the brain releases endorphins, which are your natural painkillers that soothe and create a sense of security and calm. Okay. Now here's the seventh little quickie tip. You mistake sexual chemistry for love. Now, the signs and symptoms are familiar. People in love fantasize, they pine, they obsess, they lose sleep and weight. And you think the love must be real because the chemistry between you is so explosive and you're willing to sacrifice so much for this passion. And here's the eighth little quickie tip. Affairs are blind because you idealize the other person and you assign to him or her more positive attributes than any one person could actually possess. But at the same time, you're likely to paint your partner in equally distorted but negative terms as a foil for your lover. And this really actually drives you farther away from your primary partner. Now, there is also, for number 9, false ideas about love that contribute to affairs, because most contemporary marriages start out with romantic love, but feelings of love are not steady and they're not constant and they travel in a natural cycle. And if your relationship doesn't live up to what your ideal or ideas are about love, the problem may not be with your relationship, but with your ideas. And you fall out of love with a spouse and in love with someone else, that often rekindles the early experience of romantic love. And it's why lovers say, or he or she made me feel young again. But sooner or later, lovers in an extramarital affair have to confront the dynamic nature of their relationship and move on to a deeper bond or sever the connection. Now, here's the last one. Behind affairs, behind the passion of affairs, are old scars. Because so often this grand passion has more to do with your unmet childhood needs and your old scars than with the other person. Because so often, you come into a relationship thinking that your boyfriend or girlfriend, husband or wife is going to fix all the wounds that you suffered. And then when you become disappointed, you go to the affair thinking, now this person is going to fill all my voids. And you bring those unmet needs to the affair. And you have that sense of rush and high happiness because this time around I'm going to finally receive the love I never got as a kid. But it's all an illusion, isn't it? Because until you heal your old scars, they will haunt you in every relationship, illicit or above the table. So heal those old scars. I talk about this until death do us part, unless I kill you first. And that's really the bottom line. Heal your old scars so you'll be immune to affairs and your primary relationship will move along swimmingly. All right, let me take a little break and I'll be back with you in a moment on Ask Dr. Love Radio.
You're listening to Ask Dr. Love with Dr. Jamie Turndorf. To speak to Dr. Turndorf live on the air, call 888-463-6748. That's 888-463-6748. If you like what you're hearing, you can learn about Dr. Turndorf's techniques for turning conflict into connection and healing in her critically acclaimed, groundbreaking book, Till Death Do Us Part, Unless I Kill You First, a step-by-step guide for resolving relationship conflict. Find out more about this book and read a free excerpt by visiting AskDrLove.com. This is Ask Dr. Love with Dr. Jamie Turndorf. And if you have a question for her, please call in now at 888-463-6748. This show is for you, the listeners, so please give her a call now. You're listening to Ask Dr. Love with Jamie Turndorf, Ph.D. Once again, here's Dr. Love.
So we're talking about the anatomy of infidelity, and I wanted to tell you something really interesting. I came across this research about affairs following a specific pattern, and that all affairs apparently fall into 4 stages. Now, we shouldn't say everything and always, because all generalizations are false, including what I just said, right? So, but in general, affairs fall into 4 stages. Stage 1, there's that spark, and you develop the close bond. And that's the talking phase. And it could happen on the internet, in the neighborhood, or at work. And it happens often at work because you're spending more time at work working intimately with people than you often spend at home with a partner. Stage 2, you're keeping the relationship a secret and you don't tell your spouse or your friends that you're emotionally attracted to this other person. But you're in deep when you decide to keep what's happening a secret. That's a real warning sign for you. Now, of course, secrecy fuels the fire, as I explained a few minutes ago, right? And the taboo nature of affairs and the way people don't speak openly about them actually fuels more affairs. Now, stage 3, you start seeing each other. You bite the bullet. You're playing tennis. You're meeting for lunch or drinks. And you may rationalize that you're only seeing a friend or a colleague, but deep down you know this isn't true. Now, stage 4, this is when you get down. Sometimes the affair leads to a new relationship or a marriage, and other times it's a roller coaster ride that lasts a few months or years. And then, of course, there are the lifetime affairs like that of Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn. That was a very famous affair that lasted a lifetime. But what's really wild is the fact that people tend to use the same expressions when they discuss the passion, the betrayal, and the pain associated with their affairs. Words like, nobody ever made me feel this way before. I wanted to kill myself. If I had to choose one person to live with me on a deserted island, it would be him or her. Now, why? Why do people fall into affairs? Researchers point to a combination of issues in the individual and in the marriage. And the personal issues run the gamut from low self-esteem to midlife crises, in which people question everything at home or at work. And marital problems may stem from getting married very young or having a job that takes a spouse away from home, emotionally as well as physically. Now, of course, my own observations over 30 years of working with couples is the old scars are the bottom line. They are behind everything. We come in with them. We expect our old scars to be healed. When our partners don't heal us, we're disappointed. Then we go look for somebody else to heal us. It's this Sisyphus operation, chasing your own tail till you heal the scars. But the point is, you don't want to look for a cookie-cutter formula to explain infidelity, and you don't want to use labels like bad marriage or a weak character. But also, it's interesting because as a society, we give a lot of lip service to, but actually undermine monogamy, because we learn at a very early age to associate sex with deception and secrecy. And by not talking to our kids about sex, we show them to keep it a secret. And that sets up an expectation that sexual fulfillment can only be attained in secret relationships. And secrecy, many researchers say, is the enemy of monogamy. So let's just start talking about sex. Well, we'll be doing that in a little while when I start reading between the sheets. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk to you a little bit about is the aftermath of an affair, because you have to understand that, if you haven't already experienced it, affairs rock your world. Life is never going to be the same again, because all parties involved experience a profound sense of loss and pain. The old status quo is gone and the future is uncertain. Now, after finding out, the hurt partner experiences the most basic loss of self, because you're going to feel alien in your own skin. Your basic assumptions about the order of your universe have been turned upside down, and it's devastating. Now, the person confessing to an infidelity experiences the full gamut of guilt and self-loathing. But then there's also relief, too, because leading a double life can become increasingly difficult for people engaged in affairs, and getting the truth out relieves them of carrying the burden of betrayal alone. Now, to some therapists, honesty is essential, too, if the couple is to stay married and lay down a new framework for their relationship. I actually remember I had a couple some years ago where the husband had this addiction to flirting with young girls. And one girl actually pressed charges against him, and he got arrested. It was a horrendous nightmare. And the wife was so devastated and felt she couldn't trust him and described his behavior as very addictive. And one of the things that we put in place that ended up restoring their marriage was an agreement that he would be faithful to her and tell her every time he had the urge to stray, verbally, to flirt, so that by coming clean and telling his wife, trust was reestablished. Now, some people are actually glad that the affair is over and they want to reestablish their marriage, and they're just so thankful to be with one person again and in one place. And they are just so wanting to move forward. And the betrayed spouse may also find relief, because if the affair seems to come out of the blue, the underlying causes of the infidelity have probably been present for some time, and there can be a sense of relief when the truth is finally out. So it's like a storm that flattens everything and allows fresh air to come through. And the cheater is also in this aftermath going to face another set of problems, is how do you rebuild your life without the affair? Because at first there's a profound sense of aloneness and even confusion. And according to research, parties in extramarital affairs report thoughts of suicide, and what people really want to kill may not be themselves but the pain. And secrecy may be what sustains the affair while it's going on, but it's also what exacerbates the pain when it's over, because now there's no one to talk to, and the loved one is gone. And unlike a death or divorce that prompts support from family and friends, the breakup of an affair largely goes unnoticed, and who can you talk to because it's a taboo subject. And everyone in this triangle suffers a sense of loss, a loss of self, a loss of love. And it's believed that the great hypocrisy in our culture is that while affairs are so prevalent, most people remain largely unsympathetic and closed to the complexities and the pain. And they slip into the stereotypes about infidelity and offer pat advice like leave the no-good two-timer, or labels. They throw labels on the cheater. He's a home wrecker. She's a home wrecker. Or they blame themselves. I wasn't sexy enough. And then, of course, all these cliches provide a false sense of protection, because we don't want to believe that a man could have an affair on a wife who's loving and sensual and kind. And that means it could happen to us. So remember, an affair is a symptom. Screwing somebody else is a nonverbal screw you that's directed at the partner who's being cheated on. And the bottom line is this. If you don't feed each other what I call your relationship essential nutrients each and every day, somebody is likely to stray. Now, when positive feelings stop flowing, when you start to feel starved in your relationship, that's when one or both of you are tempted to graze elsewhere in search of a feeding. Enter cheating. Now, when you think about the body, you know that it requires essential nutrients to thrive. And a relationship is no different. It needs care and feeding to survive too. And that's why I coined that expression, relationship essential nutrients, which are a relationship's minimum daily requirements. And if you know what these nutrients are and you feed them to each other each and every day, you have the best shot out there of heading off a cheating episode before it starts. Now, what I also want you to know is that the relationship essential nutrients are different for men and women. Men's essential nutrients can be boiled down to what I call the 2 A's, admiration and appreciation. Now think about it. Men are raised to make things happen, to act and to produce. And when a man loves a woman, he's wired to move heaven and earth to make her happy. Now, in turn, a man needs to feel that his woman values what he does for her. So, in short, men need to be admired and appreciated for their strength, their power, their achievements, and their efforts to protect and provide for their women and their offspring. These are the 2 A's. Now, most relationships go sour for men not because women nag and complain about what their guy is not doing right. Because to have a happy relationship or marriage, the savvy woman knows that she has to directly state what she wants and what pleases her rather than complain after the fact over what she didn't get. Because when a woman falls into what I call the 3 Scrooges fight trap, nagging, whining, and complaining, in no time a guy feels useless as a man. That causes him to give up on his partner, stop trying to please her in and out of the bedroom, and go looking for a woman who does value him. And according to everything I've seen in my 30 years of research and practice, men, when they're asked why they cheat, it's rarely because they say they were feeling starved for sex. And just so you know, since couples tend to shower each other with praise during the honeymoon phase, it's easy for a guy to get seduced by the rewards, the emotional rewards of another woman who makes him feel unconditionally admired and appreciated. And when a man gets adequate admiration and appreciation from his partner, he doesn't need to go looking elsewhere for it. Okay, so relationship essential nutrients for a man, admiration and appreciation. Now, what are the relationship essential nutrients for a woman? So what do women need to be happy in relationships, to immunize them against cheating? So while men are wired to be protectors and providers, a woman is biologically programmed to find a guy who's going to provide and protect her and her offspring. And it is that simple for a woman. And don't be fooled. Even if a woman earns a good living and doesn't need a man to take care of her financially, her biological programming doesn't know this. In fact, according to research, even wealthy women choose life partners who are even more financially successful than they are, because women have a biologically programmed need to feel safe, protected, and secure. And this need is fueled by a primitive, biologically based survival of the species imperative to choose men who will never abandon them and their offspring. So the need to be sure that a man is never going to abandon her and her offspring explains why a woman requires frequent reassurances in words and actions of her man's devotion. And I call this emotional providing. And a woman needs to feel that she's first in her man's world, that he listens to her, takes her feelings to heart, and shows her in words and deeds that he values her above all others, all of which provide a deep feeling of security that he's never going to take a hike. Now, I go into full detail on the relationship essential nutrients that you need to cheat-proof your relationship in my book, Make Up, Don't Break Up. So to find out all about relationship essential nutrients, I encourage you to read this book ASAP. This is how you're going to cheat-proof your relationship or bring it back from the brink after a breakup. Now, I said earlier in the show that cheating can be caused by unhealed old scars from childhood. So, I'll never forget the case of this guy who couldn't stop cheating on his wife, and she was so attractive. And my big question was, what hole was he really trying to fill, if you'll pardon the pun? And as I did some digging, I found out that his dad left home when he was young, and he actually felt starved for love. There are those old scars again. Now, there's a couple of ways that old scars can actually cause us to cheat or induce a partner to cheat on us. So if you were abandoned as a child, you're going to be terrified of being dropped by your partner. And this fear can actually lead you to suspect and accuse an innocent partner. And eventually you could actually push someone into cheating. And cheating can also be a way of creating space and distance, because if you have a fear of intimacy and closeness, which itself is due to another old scar, specifically if you had a smothering, invasive parent, or you fear being taken over by your partner, you might just cheat to get some distance and space. Now, here's another link to old scars. When we think of cheating, we assume that the partner who is cheated on, is the innocent bystander. But in reality, the ChiT, as I call it, often has a major hand in provoking the cheating. Now, I know this is not a popular position, but hear me out on this. Because on the most superficial level, the ChiT isn't providing the relationship essential nutrients that his or her partner needs, and therefore pushes the cheater away. And on a deeper level, it's often the case that the ChiT may actually have an unconscious need to be cheated on. And I know it sounds nuts, but in intimate partnerships, we'll often induce the other partner to behave in ways that meet our own emotional needs. For example, I have a patient who came to see me because her husband was exploding in rage, and she seemed so sweet and meek. But guess what? As soon as I got the husband to behave and stop exploding, she began to rage. My point is, she unconsciously arranged to get him to express her own anger. And when he wasn't her mouthpiece anymore, her own anger came surging to the surface. So with cheating, the cheatee may have a need to be cheated upon to create space or even to create an earlier abandonment wound from childhood. And it's all very complicated, but the bottom line is you got to know thyself. Okay, and this means you need to be aware of your own old scars from childhood, and you need to heal them in order to fully cheat-proof your relationship. All right. Man, I gave you a lot to think about there today. You know, it sounds complicated, but it comes down to thine own self be true. The better you know yourself, the better you know your weak spots, your emotional Achilles heel, your wounds. The more you heal these parts of yourself, the more you're going to feel content in your relationship, the less you're going to be looking to try to heal old wounds with your partner, the less you're going to stray, the more you're going to want to stay, and likewise for your partner. Alrighty, let me take a brief break, and I'll be back with you in a moment on Ask Dr. Love Radio.
You're listening to Ask Dr. Love with Dr. Jamie Turndorf. To speak to Dr. Turndorf live on the air, call 888-463-6748. That's 888-463-6748. If you've recently been through a breakup and are looking for a second chance, wondering how you can reconcile with your ex, or if it's even possible after all you've been through, Dr. Turndorf's latest book, Make Up, Don't Break Up, presents her 5-step plan for reconciling with your ex. This plan was developed out of years of research, working with thousands of couples at her Center for Emotional Communication. This is a proven no-hype and no-nonsense method that gets right to the root of the problem to guide you to the right path towards reigniting a lasting relationship. For more about Make Up, Don't Break Up, visit AskDrLove.com. You're listening to Ask Dr. Love with Jamie Turndorf, Ph.D. Once again, here's Dr. Love.
Hello again, and welcome back to Ask Dr. Love Radio. Today I'm talking about the anatomy of infidelity. All right, here's the question that is coming up for you. This is one of the many questions that came into my site. And I've said this before, I always love to offer to have people call in and ask me their questions live, but I seem to not be airing at a time when people can call. It's sort of the middle of the work day, and people, thousands, listen after the fact. So if you hear the call-in number, obviously you can't call in because we're rebroadcasting after the fact. So here's the question. To get my story to make sense, Dr. Love, I need to tell you from A to Z. So here it goes. My boyfriend and I met when I was 18 at a gym. We started the relationship a month after having met 3 times. I understand the fact that we rushed things without being friends. First, especially when clearly I wasn't over my ex, I got excited because I believed that he was the one because he appeared just after I broke up with my ex. There's no word to explain, but yeah, I was pretty moved by his actions. And after days of being together, my ex came to me and wanted me back. And to be honest, I didn't think twice when I said, okay. I was blinded and one thing led to another. My boyfriend warned me about him. He didn't know I was with my ex while I was with him. And after a few months, things got uglier. He found out about the affair, and a few months later I found out that he was actually with someone from the start, as in he was someone's boyfriend when he asked me to be his. And it was no doubt the worst day of my life, and I've caught him cheating a lot. I did the same too. I know for a fact that my affair was worse, but the thing that made me angry is that he never knew how I'm hurt too because of his affair. He said that I knew from the beginning you were never serious, so I did that as a revenge. And once he said that, it's because he pities her, which is it, we will never know. We tried to go our separate ways. Our longest was 3 months, but we just can't live without each other. It's been 3 years since all the cheating and everything. Now we're fine, but we just can't trust each other. And I tried, but I just can't, because I realized he's never been honest with me, but as for me, I'm 100% faithful. He hit me, he spit on me, he slapped me, he kicked me. I did too. It's a total love-hate situation, and I'm very close to being insane. I wanted to break up, but he never allows it, no matter how much I tried. I checked on the internet if I'm depressed, and what worries me is that I have all the symptoms of a depressed person. Him too. So I'm scared. I don't know what to do. Don't tell me we should break up, because it's never gonna work. Signed, Totally Confused. Okay, look, it is not my place to tell you what to do. And you say that you worry that you're depressed. But how could you not be depressed? Because you are a human punching bag, and you're a prisoner in your own emotional jail. And whenever we feel trapped or stuck, it's very depressing. Now, I'm the jailer who can set you free. The key to your freedom is understanding. So first I want you to see that you and your boyfriend are actually mirror images of each other. You both were unfaithful to each other from the start, and you both are unable to trust. You're both abusive. Your relationship consists of you're taking turns torturing each other with infidelity and physical abuse, and now with lack of trust. So just so you know, breaking up won't solve the problem. The problem will haunt you both wherever you go and no matter who you're with. And I also want you to know that it's no accident that you chose each other and that you chose to stay with each other. Because if you want your life to change, you need to understand why. Now, I'm betting that you are both filled with rage towards your parents. And you both represent the other's hated parent for each other. And you take turns beating up on the parent and then doing penance for your bad behavior by taking a punishment. So no wonder you can't let each other go, because you both have unfinished business with your parents and you aren't done paying your parents back. Now, if you want to get past this prison, read my book, Till Death Do Us Part, Unless I Kill You First. The title of the book sounds like your life, let's be real. And the book is going to show you how to identify the old scars that you each carry from childhood. And then it'll show you how to heal the scars with each other's help. And actually, I truly believe that this is the divine calling of our relationships, that we are drawn to each other because we know that this other person is the perfect puzzle piece to help us replay and relive our old scars, and therefore also the perfect puzzle piece to help us heal. And so my book will show you how you can heal the scars with each other's help. And to do this, you're going to need to make a commitment to talk about your feelings, your hurt, your fear, your sadness, your lack of trust, and so on, without going into action. And by action, I mean cheating, verbal attacks, physical attacks, no action. Now, if you commit to this no action policy, your feelings are then going to be able to be put into words. And once they're in words, the healing can begin. Because when you speak, you are to listen and understand each other. And doing so is the way that you're going to help each other heal the pain. Now, if you cannot commit to this plan, your relationship will be a war zone and nothing more till death do you part. And I've given you the blueprint for healing your depression and your relationship. I want to hear from you. I want to hear how you make out. Because if you follow the steps I outline in the book and heal yourselves, you will be able to have a peaceful relationship and a happy relationship. You can't believe how many couples have come to me over the decades fighting with each other, pounding on each other. And when I help them to heal the old scars, using their relationship as the healing agent, they're peaceful. So do the work and save yourself. Save your bodies, save your souls, save your minds, save your relationship. All right, now here's the next question I'm going to give you guys. It's called Trust Issues with My Boyfriend. Hi, Dr. Love. I've been in a long-distance relationship with my boyfriend for over 1 year and 2 months. He is 25 and lives in Jamaica, and I am 19 and I live in Sweden. And I've traveled to his country and stayed at his place, met his family and friends who were nice to me. He has 2 children from 2 different women, and I knew that, and I had no problem with him because he is my first love, the guy I lost my virginity to. And I love his kids, and I make sure I'm there for them, and I buy them stuff, and I send them money when needed. And my boyfriend is a caring, loving man, and he gave me his password to his Facebook. And I never doubted his loyalty to me, but lately he's been too comfortable in the relationship. We talk every day on the phone, but we are not Skyping, and it's not like before. A couple of days ago, I went in his Facebook, and I found a message which I have never seen, and it was sent when we were dating for 4 months from his baby mama saying, "You don't love me. Stop pretending it's her you love. Go ahead and be with her and enjoy your life, and I'll definitely move on." I asked him about it, and he said he's never written to any girl before, and I have his password all this time, and he is not in contact with his ex, and he does not hate his ex, but he's not in love with her and doesn't want to be in a relationship with her, and it's the ex who's been trying to get back together with him. And he shouted and told me I'm an accuser and he's tired of begging me and I should go ahead and do what I want, and he curses at me when he is angry, and I admit I too curse at him, but he takes it to the next level. But he has never threatened to break up the relationship during each argument. But it's me who always tells him it's over, and I'm trying to work on it. True, he did not write to his ex on Facebook because he is not foolish to do that since I have his password, but I believe he might have called her or gone over her place, and the girl decided to write to him on Facebook. And now I feel like I don't trust him, or maybe he was going behind my back with her all this time. And he wrote to my mother not explaining anything but saying I'm immature and insecure about normal stuff, and he has not tried to call me for the past 4 days, and I've not tried to contact him as well, and I'm confused and hurt because I have been there for this guy a lot, and I don't know what to do. Signed, Heartbroken Girl. Well, Heartbroken Girl, this is quite a mess, because your boyfriend gave you his Facebook password. It would indicate that he has nothing to hide. And he says that his ex wants him back, but that he doesn't. And in fact, you have verified that he never wrote back to her on Facebook. Now, what the ex said on Facebook makes no sense to me. You quote her as saying, "You don't love me. Stop pretending it's her you love. Go ahead and be with her and enjoy your life, and I'll definitely move on." Now, because she wrote to him when you were already 4 months into your relationship with him, I can see why you are concerned that he might have continued an involvement with her. But what I'm wondering is why he gave you his Facebook password. Did he do this to make you jealous, or did he do this to prove his loyalty to you? Well, the real issue is why you don't trust him. Why do you feel that he went behind your back and has been seeing his ex all this time? And do you have evidence other than what his ex said? And does this guy have a history of cheating on his former girlfriends? What do you know about his past relationships? Well, you did say that he has 2 children from 2 different women, but what's the story there? There's a lot you don't know about him and his past behavior, and the long-distance relationship isn't helping you to feel secure since you can't lay eyes on him every day. So you need to have a calm talk with him. Get to know him better. Share your insecurities without making him feel blamed. And my book, Till Death Do Us Part, is going to show you exactly how to do this. And I wish you so much luck. All right, now here's another one. I just have so many questions I want to get through because I wish I could answer every single one of you who writes to me. So let me get on it. Why my ex is constantly lying to me. Dear Dr. Love, so my ex and I were together for 3 years, and we lived together for 2 years and 3 months before he broke up with me. We were having problems. I wasn't patient, and I had attitude problems, and he grew tired of it. So he moved out and said he needed space, and he said he was confused about everything. And a couple of days before he broke up with me, I found out he started going out with this girl from work. And 1 week after we broke up, he said he started talking to someone, but it said we're just hanging out and he likes her because she's religious. And I got mad and I told him not to talk to her because she's just a rebound girl who is young and has issues. And I believed him. And a month later, he decided to go out with her every weekend, spending money that he shouldn't. And why is he lying to me about hanging out with her? Why not tell me the truth? I already know everything. The girl makes it obvious on social networking, and I'm his first everything, and I know we could work things out in the future. So should I confront him and tell him I know about everything, or no? I don't want to lose him and push him away. Please help. Signed, Lost and Confused. Okay, so look, focusing on this other woman is not your best move, because if you rag on him about her, you're going to just be continuing more of the same behavior that drove him away. He's dating someone else, and he's lying to you about it. Now, if he were truly done with you, he wouldn't need to lie to you about seeing someone else. He'd just see someone else and not hide it. So the lying is telling me he feels guilty about what he's doing, like he's two-timing you, and the feeling of guilt tells me that he's still attached to you. So rather than confront him, try to reconcile your relationship. You say that you're sure that you could work things out in the future. Well, to move the reconciliation process forward, simply own your mistakes with him. Tell him what you told me about your impatience and attitude problems, and tell him that you're working on developing impulse control. And to make sure that your reconciliation process proceeds without a hitch, use Make Up Don't Break Up. My book will guide you through all the steps that you're going to need to take. And based upon what you said, I really am hopeful that you can repair your relationship if you follow my proven reconciliation plan. Alrighty, so here comes my reading between the sheets. I guess I shouldn't say here comes, right? Here's the question. He won't give you oral sex. Dear Dr. Turndorf, I'm in love with my boyfriend, and I know he loves me too, but the problem is he doesn't perform oral sex on me, and I'm afraid of cheating on him because of the fact that he doesn't give oral sex, and I'm so used to receiving it, and I don't know what to do. Please help me. Alrighty, so I hear your sense of urgency, but hold on a minute. It's not that you're without sex altogether. You aren't completely sexually frustrated, so cool your jets and don't let your feet do any walking. Instead, start talking. Tell him exactly what you told me, and then ask him to talk about what his objection is to performing oral sex on you, and listen to what the guy says, because you may be surprised at what you hear. Because I'm reminded of a couple who came to see me a couple of years ago, and the wife had the same complaint as yours, and it turned out her husband loved performing oral sex, and so why wasn't he performing oral sex on her? And he told me privately that she never bathed before, and he felt uneasy to perform the act if she was unclean. And he didn't know how to tell her this, so he simply avoided the entire subject and act. So talk to your guy. Find out where he's coming from, if you'll pardon the pun. And if cleanliness isn't the issue, then what else could be stopping him from chowing down? Maybe he has an inhibition. Maybe he feels the act is wrong or sinful. Or maybe he's just afraid that he doesn't know how to do it right. I had a husband tell his wife that very same thing this last week. So talking is going to go a long way to helping him loosen up. And maybe he feels inexperienced and, like I said, doesn't know how to perform oral sex on you. And rather than admitting his lack of skill, he may just avoid the entire subject. If this is his problem, tell him that you'll guide him on what feels best. That's why guys were given ears, right? Aren't they little steering tools? No, seriously. But if this is his problem, tell him that you can show him. Every man has to practically start from scratch and relearn his technique, since every partner's sensibilities are so different. And if you're still stuck, let me know and we'll find a solution. And promise me that you will bear your frustration and hang in there and work to resolve the problem. And do not cheat. Do not cheat. And don't tell me eating ain't cheating either. All righty. So, this was a very, very full program. I really feel strongly about this. Focus on healing your old scars, and you will feel more contentment in your relationship, less of that primordial baby hunger, and you will just never think of cheating. Your relationship will satisfy you. Hook, line, and sinker. Your passion and your love will actually grow, not fade. So take care of those old scars. Work on healing them together, and you will be immunized from cheating and from being cheated upon. So that's all I have for you for this week, and I look forward to seeing you next week on Ask Dr. Love Radio.